Hello everyone, this is D-Lord and welcome to a tutorial on the Redstone Flux Control Center or RFCC. RFCC is a Computercraft program developed by me. It is meant to address certain power grid requirements that are not handled by other power systems, especially like Ender IO. So in this tutorial, I will be guiding you through a step-by-step from installation of RFCC all the way to building up a basic power grid uh, and subgrids, and how to expand your power grid with RFCC as a command center. So let's begin. So uh, I think everybody has seen a setup something similar to this. So this is a power monitor from Ender IO, and this is a capacitor bank. So what a power monitor does is it monitors the overall available energy stored in the entire network, and it has the option of emitting a redstone signal if the total available energy is less than a certain percentage, such as shown here. So right now I configured this power monitor to emit a signal when it's less than 60% full. But there's a problem with this setup. This is actually just reading the capacitor bank. It does not take into account the storage, the available energy from this ultimate energy cube. As you can see here, the total energy available to the in the system is actually is slightly above 50%. Even if I lower the threshold here to 40, it will not stop emitting a redstone signal simply because it does not take into account the energy stored here. It will only take into account an energy stored here, and because of that, it can make your power systems a little bit more complicated. So if you have a heterogeneous power system, so for example you have a mixture of capacitor banks, some energy cubes, and resonant energy cells, you're not going to be able to monitor all of them. You're only able to take into account this. It's also not practical to use capacitor banks only, because the problem with capacitor banks when building on a large scale, this causes a lot of lag. I've tried putting 1,000 of these in one chunk, and believe me, that's not fun. Yes, that's how insane my power requirements are. So, what options do I have? I do play Resonant Rise. Okay, Resonant Rise has a ton of mods in it, and in particular, there's Computercraft and OpenPeripherals. So, thanks to the combination of those two, we can actually build an alternative power monitoring system that is more robust and that can be able to monitor not only storage devices but also conduits and machines. And that's how I started developing RFCC. So let's get into the basics of how to start your own power grid with the use of RFCC. Okay, so let's put down a basic lamp here just for demonstration. Here's an advanced computer. RFCC does not work with regular computers. It has to be an advanced computer. Even monitors, you need to use advanced monitors. You cannot use regular monitors here. So to set up RFCC, you just need to remember this one Pastebin command. So this particular Pastebin is controlled by me. That's linked to my account. So any future updates to RFCC will be posted here. So let's download it. Okay, so now I've downloaded RFCC to this computer as a starter program. In order for us to complete the setup, let's also label this computer, which I'll show why. So my first power grid. Oops, forgot. Label set. So label set my first power grid. Okay. Remember, you have to put in quotes if you want to put in spaces in the name of the computer. Okay, so let's start up RFCC. Oh, it's telling me that, oh, there's no configuration file, so it generated one for me. It's called power_conf. So this is the main configuration file that you'll be interested in. Once it's generated, you may probably want to change a few defaults. Uh, these defaults are basically tuned for multiplayer use. So if you're playing on a single player, or you probably have enough processing power to spare, you may want to tweak this a bit. Specifically, the tick delay. So tick delay is currently set to 100. That's a default, or 5 seconds. So for purposes of demonstration, let's put this at 20. And then I'll put the low power threshold for this to 30. So low power threshold, that means that's the, if it reaches this this percentage for the entire system, it will emit a redstone signal. Okay, and it will stop emitting a redstone signal once it reaches 90%. The green zone and yellow zone indicates the percentages for the power bars, which you'll see later. So if, for example, your capacitor is above 70%, it will be colored green. If it's below 70% and it's between 70 and 30%, it's yellow. It's below 30, it's going to be red. One gripe I have about power monitors is that actually this emits a redstone signal on all sides. Now, this is a problem if you want to have a storage directly attached or directly beside the power monitor, and it gets disabled with the redstone signal. You don't want that. So you have the option here to specify which side it will emit a redstone signal. So by default, it's set to bottom. You are of course free to change this. Valid values are let's see, front, back, left, right, top, and bottom. So those are the Computercraft sides. Monitors active, you don't really need to touch this. This will be updated by RFCC once you activate an external monitor. So let's save this and then reboot. So starting RF Control Center. Okay, so now this is the native console. So the native console has 3 tabs: the dashboard tab, which shows all of the information about your entire power grid; the monitors tab, which shows all the available monitors for output; and finally the console tab. Console will show you all any activities by RFCC. So for example, if you attach a peripheral and it's detected, you will see here. If you attach a monitor, you will see it here. Something disconnected, this will also get logged here. Okay. So currently, since we named this computer My First Power Grid, you can see here it's labeled My First Power Grid. Okay. And it's also advisable to label your computers. So don't forget to label your computers, especially if you're going to be moving bases, or you're going to be moving this computer at some point in the future. Okay. So that's the very basic RFCC. So from here, let's start expanding this. Let me attach an energy cube. Okay, now it detected 1 capacitor. Total storage in the entire grid is now 51,200,000, and you can now click this item. This shows you the details about that particular item. So this is a capacitor. The capacitor name is left, of course, because it's on the left side. Later on, you will see different names depending on once you start expanding this. So the type is a basic energy cube, total capacity, and available. So that's a very, very basic setup. So remember that this dashboard actually live updates whenever there are changes to the storage. Okay, so let's start charging up something. Let's probably connect let's connect this. Let's connect an energy cell. Now you can see here, now there's a flow. Our power grid is now discharging with a flow rate of negative 1100 RF per tick. Now this flow rate, I there, if you can see, there's a deviation to the actual flow rate. This is actually outputting approximately 10,000 RF per tick, but it's recording 1100 here simply because of tick delays and certain delays when it comes to checking. So there's not much I can do about it. So it's really a Minecrafting. It's more of for statistics purposes and for you to be able to gauge how much power you're gaining or losing in the system. Now, interpreting the flow rate, this can be, for most people who are not familiar, flow rate, there's no real way to measure how much power a machine is getting, unless the machine supports a way to show how much power is being consumed. So rather, this flow rate here shows you how much the differential between the input and the output. So if, for example, I attach a creative energy cell here, okay, now you can see the flow rate is now 0. How come? Because this one is outputting at a rate of 10,000 RF per tick. This is getting charged at a rate of 10,000 RF per tick. This is outputting its power at a rate of 10,000 RF per tick. So that's why the flow rate is now 0. If I remove this and let it charge, you will see that it's now charging. The flow rate is now positive 11,000 RF per tick. So that's how you interpret this value. So when you see it's 0, it can mean two things. It's either nothing is using up your power, or the total input and the total output is the same. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Okay, so let's move on. You can attach peripherals to any of the 6 sides here. So if I attach an energy cell here, it will also detect it as a second capacitor. So now total storage is now at 100 million. So I add a third one, I add a fourth one. That's fine. I can even add a last one, and voila. But the problem here is we only have 6 sides, right? So how do we address that? We'll go to that in a bit. Before I go to that, let's do something cool. Now remember monitors, this monitors tab. You can actually attach an external monitor to this computer, like so. Now, as for the size of the monitor, by default, or the recommended size is 4x3. Well, let's make it 4x3 at the moment, just for demonstration purposes. So let's make it 4x3. This is the recommended size. You can make it smaller, but it's not going to look as good. You can definitely make it bigger. It will show more information if if you have a ton of capacitors in the network or in the power grid. It's easier to browse. You don't need to go through the pagination buttons here. Anyway, so now that we have a monitor attached, let's go to the monitors tab. Oh, it's not detecting it. Let's try it again. Oh, it's not detecting it. Let's reboot the computer. Oops. Let's reboot it. Okay, monitors. There we go. There's a top. So, adding new monitor top. So if I click on top, there we go. So what you see here in this dashboard, you can also see now here. Okay, and you have the option to have multiple monitors as well. So if, for example, I remove this one, so now RFCC will now detect there's only 2 because there's one at the back. Then attach a monitor here. Oops. Click on that. See, this is the left monitor. If I click on this, it will also show you the same thing. Now the reason why I told you it's the recommended size is 4 by 3 simply because if you try to open it up, it won't look as good. Unlike here, it will show fine. So remember, 4 by 3 is the minimum. Okay, so that's our basic setup. But the problem here is we're limited to 6 sides of block. That's a problem with Minecraft. There's only 6 sides. So what can we do? We can expand this power grid using ward modems. So with the introduction of ward modems back in an older version of Computercraft, you can now attach multiple peripherals to a computer without limiting yourself to 6 sides in a block. Sounds cool, right? So let's take it for a spin. So let's say I now have, let's put in some of these. So let's put one of these, and let's put it away. There we go. Now let's attach them all with a wired modem, a network cable. Oops. Attach it here. You don't need to turn on, it's not really necessary to turn on the wired modem beside the computer. You just need to turn on the wired modems here. So you turn it on by right clicking. So at the bottom of the screen, peripheral, ultimate energy cube, connected, okay, connected, and finally connected. So now you can see here in our screen, we now have a total of 5 capacitors. So if you notice, this is actually sorted. This is sorted by percent power available. So this is the ultimate energy cube. The top one is actually this energy cell, creative energy cell. That's why there's only 10,000 RF per tick. There's only 10,000 RF. So you'll see also the same thing here. And I can continue on attaching more storages here. And let's turn this on. See, now there's 6. You want to add a capacitor bank to the mix? Oh sure. Let's go add one. Oops. Let's see. Let's attach our ward modem here. Okay. So now let's turn this on. Now that that's on, how many capacitors do we have? We now have 7. Why? 1, 2, behind, 3, 4, 5, 6, finally 7. So it also detects under I/O. You're not even limited to any of to under I/O. You can also attach things like, oh, let's say I want to attach this other power monitor as well. Yes, you can. So let's attach the power monitor. Oh, it doesn't want to. Okay, looks like this block doesn't want to behave well. But we want to monitor this one. How can we do that? Well, OpenPeripherals adds a nifty block. Let's open up my NEI here. Okay. OpenPeripherals adds a nifty block called the peripheral proxy. So the peripheral proxy is a block that allows you to attach tile entities to an existing Computercraft network. So to set up a peripheral proxy, you have to attach the peripheral proxy. This arrows has to face the block or the tile entity you're interested in. You can even actually attach other things like, oh no, let's put it here. Oh, let's get an energy conduit here. Okay, then let's put your ward modem. Let's get your, okay, right click to turn on. So now we're at 8. Turn this on. We're now at, are we now at 9? Are we now at 9? Yes, we are now at 9. So this is even detected. So as you can see, so okay, this is 100,000 RF. Let's check. So you can paginate since we have more than 5. So 9. I think is this the one? Back, no. Is the one? Nope. And the IO block power monitor. See? It's detecting the power monitor down there. Oh, okay. So you can even do the same thing here. So these two, by the way, can work independently. So you can have two people looking at this at the dashboards independently or interacting with this system independently. Cool, right? So that's how a basic power grid works. Oh, you want to expand this even further? Want to add that second monitor? Oh, sure. Let's add this one. Okay, turn this on. Now RFCC should see this monitor is 0. So now it's also outputting here. Cool, right? Okay, so I think I've covered the basics of RFCC. So at the very least, you can connect all your storage devices and have them monitored by this thing. But of course, we won't stop there. We want to do some automation with this. And for some automation, I'll have to build a similar setup. So I'll be back. Before I start building my next sample power grid, I'd like to also guys tell you about the update feature of RFCC. So in order to simplify updates to your power grids, and especially if you have a lot of subgrids, you can just type the name of the RFCC file, then pass in the parameter update. So what this does is it does connect to my Pastebin and download the latest RFCC update. So this is a convenient feature. So it doesn't matter actually even if you rename the file, let's say startup to dlord. So if I type dlord update, it will still update the same file. See? Nifty, right? Okay, so this is an example of a power grid that we have. We are now using OpenPeripherals as hot plug for enabling us to. Okay, one advantage for using peripheral proxies is that we can now easily add and remove storages from the entire grid. So now it's 4. So normally, if you attach a ward modem directly, if you try to remove it without deactivating the modem first, you will have a problem. RFCC will not detect that that peripheral was removed. So think of it as safely. You have to safely remove first. But with the peripheral proxy, the disabling of the ward modem is done for you. So now if you want to attach it back to the network, just right click and it will recognize it again. Now you notice, I think you've noticed here that I actually labeled this grid as a subgrid. Why? What is this thing? I have a main grid which has 17 capacitors. Total is 250 million. Is this 250 million? Yeah, it's 250 million. And why is this one bigger than this? Now, welcome to subgrids. This is actually the main grid. This computer here sees Reese magmatic engines and uh, Reese resonant energy cells as part of the network, while this computer only sees Reese resonant energy cells. This is thanks to the hot plug subsystem of RFCC. With it, you can actually build subgrids. So you can have a main grid that can monitor the entire facility and that has a different settings and threshold as compared to subgrids. So in this case, this subgrid here, this has a threshold of 10%, a low power threshold of 10%. This one is configured for 30%. So right now, since the system is just newly created, it kicks in the magmatic engines, and uh, you can see here we have 17. So it also takes into account, okay, why 17? There's only 5 here and there's 10 there. The other two is actually this insulated redstone conduit and this Ender IO energy conduit. That's how Ender IO works. So essentially, all of their conduits are actually RF enabled. So that's why the RFCC is recognizing this redstone conduit as a valid conduit for monitoring. But if we take a look at the dashboard, this is actually at, I think this is the one at 0%. No, it's not this one. Anyway, it's one of these. There's actually no, this actually has no capacity. So this reading will be 0. This will be whatever is the total. I think it's 500 per conduit. I forgot how much readings. So that's basically how main grids and subgrids work. So why you would want to do a setup like this? If you need to build, for example, a system wherein you have a set of capacitor banks or a set of energy cells powering your base, and then they reach a certain threshold. The first threshold will kick in the backup generators. Then the second threshold will probably kick in, say, a big reactor. So that's why you would probably want to subdivide your large power grid into smaller subgrids. Cool, right? This is something that's not really possible with Ender IO. The problem with Ender IO's power monitor is that it can only monitor one network at a time. If you try to attach, if you try to have 2 networks within one power monitor, the power monitor will just go crazy. So this is certainly a good way for you to say for example, you want to build a big reactor, and then you want that to be part of the grid too, and you want that big reactor to kick in only when the system is really low in power. That's a very, very good way. Or if you have, for example, a tesseract that you only want to enable if at certain dire situations. Cool, right? And with that, this ends the tutorial for RFCC. I have some plans to put in more features on this. One of the features I have in mind is native big reactor support. Currently, it does not really support a big reactor. It just allows you to control big reactor via Redstone. But eventually, I would like to be able to put automation for a big reactor here, so that when you attach a big reactor, it will automatically configure the right amounts for you. Hopefully, I could find time to squeeze that in. I will see. I'm still not sure, as I'm currently doing this as a side project. So thank you for watching. Like and share this video to your friends and to those who want to build more complicated power grids, and I hope to see some crazy builds with this, and I hope to see you guys next time.